He was beaten. He was nailed to the cross. A crown of thorns was placed upon his head. His clothes were ripped from him, and while there were people gambling for his clothes, as he hung there on the cross, the first statement that Jesus made was, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." What an amazing thing for Jesus to have said, right? Because there's so many different things that he could have said in that moment. Like, hey, God, take me down from this. Let's wipe all these people out and let's start this thing over again. Or he could have said, this is too much for me to bear. Please take me down and spare me of this. Those are all things that he could have said there on the cross. But instead, he chose in that moment to say a prayer. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. It is through this forgiveness that we see the love and treasure of who Jesus is. That is in that moment that we can begin to see the first glimpse of what Jesus is going to do upon the cross. Because his voice was not silenced from the prayer for his accusers. His voice was let to ring out, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. What an amazing thing for us to see, right? Because we've all been wronged in some way. We've all have hurt. We all have pain. We've all had to forgive and be forgiven. C.S. Lewis said something to the effect of, forgiveness is a great idea until you actually have to do it. You see Jesus there in that moment when he prayed that prayer. Being God, being Jesus, being God in the flesh. He saw through time, and not only did he see those accusers, right, which were so easy to point our fingers at. You Romans and you Jews, look at what you did to the Son of God. We have the same thing to do with our own personal lives, right? When we are wronged, we are easier to point the finger quickly, right, than to point it back at us. But you see, Jesus, being God, saw through time. And his accusers were not just those people in that moment, but it was us here today. That because of our sin, that is the price that Jesus had to pay on the cross. And all of the things that he could have started off saying, the first one is a prayer for us and for them. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Maybe you're here today and you need to receive forgiveness, or you need to give forgiveness. As you approach these next couple days of Easter services and of the rest of this Good Friday service, go ahead and get that name or that person or that circumstance in your life, get it to the forefront, and go and forgive and be forgiven. And not just forgive them, well, I forgave them in my heart. No, go to them and say, hey, I'm sorry. Because in forgiveness, we find the beginning of redemption. Jesus, in all of his sovereignty, knew that the first and best way and the first and best thing to pray for was forgiveness. And so maybe you sit here today knowing that you have a couple different mentalities of, yeah, I need to go and ask for forgiveness. Or you have the mentality of, woe is me, that person needs to come and forgive me. Or maybe you're just here and you need to know the forgiveness of Jesus. That because of what our sin has done, when he looked through time and he saw Mathew Leach, and he said, Father, forgive him, for he knows not what he does. So today, my prayer for you, much like Jesus, is that we will see the forgiveness of God. Because this first statement sets up the foundation for the remaining 6 statements that Jesus is going to make. And that is a statement of forgiveness, where Jesus did what he said he would do, and he loved his enemies. And he prayed for those who persecuted him. So today, find today the day of forgiveness.